Hey, welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades, and with me this evening is the Honorable John Burt.
Yes.
Carla Gericke is here. She's a candidate for Senate, probably, I would assume.
Senate.
State Senate.
District 20.
Yeah,
Ross
again.
Terrio's got a cameo tonight.
All of them in Ward 7 in Manchester.
Yeah, we don't care. So,
How many fingers am I holding up?
all of them. We've already gone through this. We've already gone through this for us.
This is going to hurt my.
I just want you to know he didn't. That wasn't how many he held up earlier, and it was not very
It
friendly.
actually is the same amount, just to be clear.
No, you didn't see when you were talking with something.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, Carla speaks truth to power or whatever.
There
that
we
is.
Truth to
Yeah.
power,
Yes.
right.
Yeah. Hey, we were at the shindig the other night. Carla and I were. Why weren't you there?
Which
John
one?
Burt, were you there?
No,
Which-
Tammy's?
Yeah, Chris Sununu was there. Governor Sununu was there.
For
I
Victoria?
just did not know
So you
it.
guys are too good for the governor.
No, I didn't know.
I bet you're gonna try to vote to override his vetoes, aren't you? That's
No.
why I didn't show up.
No.
I can read you guys.
No,
like
the
a
meet.
book.
I think it was a Manchester GOP.
You can read a
thing.
book.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's
I
probably
wasn't on the
why.
radar.
I mean, it was great. I met a whole bunch of new voters in, Ward 10 and 11. I think it was like
Was
one
it-
I saw the
bench.
video. Of,
Was this for Victoria?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
but other
you mean
candidates
the
too.
new mayor of
West Side.
Manchester?
The next mayor of Manchester, New
Yes.
Hampshire, Victoria
Yes.
Sullivan, the
Or
great.
Glenn R.J. Willett. She's running too.
Yep. I'm running for school charter commission because I'm not going to
Wow.
let them circumvent the
Well,
tax
you know
cap
what?
without at least a bit of a fight.
That's kind of like a preview of what's to come because Lou is running too. So I would like to see you take down Lou in the school board charter.
Well,
commission.
there are 9 seats. There are 36
Yeah, but
people
you're- but-
running. I think we could probably.
But your
both
motivation,
make
when we
it.
talk about motivation, is to take down Lou.
Why is
Yeah,
Lou running for?
He's
I
he
mean,
wants
you
to
know,
be everywhere.
He
Does he
wants
have
to be
time?
everywhere. Didn't he
I don't
just
know.
become like president of some like very status thingy?
Octogenarians.
That's
or
very
something like,
detailed. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, the old age. home.
Octogenarians for gun control?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, who's older, Lou or you?
I'm not really sure. I don't want to assume his age.
I know exactly how old he is.
How old is he?
He's 82.
Holy cow.
82. Yeah, he is an
Yeah.
octogenarian then.
He really is. I mean, it's
Wow,
not.
I thought that was
you
just
know.
a slight.
No. I think he was born
See, I'm a-
before the Second World War.
See, I'm a sexagenarian, so
You're not
a
sexy at all.
sexy-genarian.
I'm a sexygenarian.
How many fingers?
That's an
Wow.
inside joke. Gary has very poor eyesight. We shouldn't be joking about what we
It
do.
is very
It cracks
mean.
us-
That's
yeah.
why I
It's not
don't.
as funny as when you see him driving. I've been stuck behind you in traffic,
Oh
sir.
no! Oh jeez.
You shouldn't even be driving, should you?
I didn't say that.
You know, she didn't
No.
say that.
You should be Ubering around, believe me.
Really?
Or having
Yeah.
John Burt should be
Are
your
you
chauffeur.
gonna pay for it?
No.
Well, I do have the
I'm
white
cheap.
car tonight.
Oh, maybe you should vote for a Democrat and then they can give you free Uber.
That is actually a good idea. I didn't think of that. If they weren't going to take my guns away, I'd be okay with it.
Right?
But
You
yeah,
shouldn't. You can't even say how. Why? You shouldn't have guns.
I should have guns.
Oh no, I just watched a video. He was
Yeah.
quite sharpshooting.
Yeah, I
Shockingly.
can shoot fine. I mean, that's why. I mean, because of my poor eyesight, that's
Yeah.
why I use 30-round magazines. But
He was
because
shooting
that's
a
what I
cat.
want to do. I want to make hunting accessible for
Great
the
again.
visually impaired by letting them use 30-round
When
magazines.
John Burt said you're gonna have blood on your hands, he was talking about you.
No,
You're
But that's
like,
just him in the kitchen.
you know, pray and spray. That's what
Yeah.
that's my philosophy. You know?
You gotta hit
Correct.
something eventually.
Eventually, you know. I think the government should be paying for my ammo because of my disability,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I agree.
what's your disability?
He's
blind?
hanging out with you is one of the big ones. You know, that always hurts a lot.
Well, if
Yeah.
I lose my election, I'm gonna blame it on you.
Yeah, that's why you came on tonight.
Because
so
you're
you
a
could say-
loser.
If you keep losing elections and then you blame it on me because you
I've
came
won
on
some.
like for
Actually, you know
5
what?
minutes.
Strangely enough, usually all the elections I've won, it's when I avoided your show, like the
See?
plague.
Okay, see, yeah, right. So he comes.
Oh no, this is
Wait,
why I
wait,
keep
wait a minute.
losing.
Did you
It's
wait?
your
Have you
fault.
been on his show? Have you been on his show before?
Yes.
Did you lose your Senate election?
I did, but I'm getting incrementally better. So
Yeah.
as
See?
people get to
But-
know me, people are coming on board with
I
the
will
message,
say that,
so.
Carl, I thought you were going to be like this kooky libertarian, and I met you. You're quite articulate and intelligent.
Wow!
And,
Wow!
There we
and,
go.
and genuine good
Jeez.
person, and
Oh.
I was pleasantly surprised.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well,
There
no,
you have it.
Yeah,
And
but
now-
no, see, that's just like when
But
somebody
Gary-
Buttering me up for the kill shot, right?
It's just like somebody meets somebody of an ethnic group and goes, "Wow, you're smart."
Oh, because of the libertarian in
Yeah, in
there?
other words,
I
the
thought you were going to be
present-
like these really kooky ideas, like, living in communes and, stuff like that.
Okay, first of all, that's not
But
really
that's
a
not
libertarian
libertarian.
idea. That would be more sort of,
Communist
libertarians
idea.
obviously believe anyone can do anything as long
Yeah.
as it's nonviolent and everyone's
Exactly.
consenting and it's
And it
voluntary,
don't cost
right?
John Burr.
So you don't
And
think I
it-
should be shooting?
No.
I think you should assume that risk for yourself, but not. You shouldn't be shooting near other people, possibly.
like
Or you
within
should make sure
miles of
they're
people.
consenting to
Right,
an
right,
assumption
right,
of risk.
right,
But
right.
yeah, so I have some papers that prove I'm not kooky. I am a
No, you're
trained
not.
lawyer
You're-
that worked on 2 continents.
European law, though, right?
Actually, well, South Africa had British law as well as
okay,
Roman
excellent.
Dutch law. So I practiced in South Africa
Nice.
for a few years and then actually took the California
Because
bar and I worked in California.
Roman law is important. You never know when, you're going to have to, like the Legion or
Most
something. you
common
have to
law is
represent.
actually based on Roman law. So
Well, actually, I was going to go into that thing. So I went to an American law school. We learned the common law, which comes from England, but a lot of the European law, it comes from Napoleonic law. It's a completely different mindset. It's civil law.
somebody-
It's,
So-
yes,
so
and
you
it's
probably learned both
codified,
systems.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, South
Somebody's calling
Africa's
us.
legal
Line one,
system
thank
is
you.
very complex because we
Press
also
this?
have,
Yeah.
But it's nice that you learned both systems.
yeah, and we have
Welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. What's up?
Hey, I just want to call in real quick. I got a question.
Sapienza.
I know this from Carla, but really anybody can jump in.
Is this Ed Sapienza?
Yes, it is.
All right.
Hey, Ed.
I voted for you for
I did too, Ed.
for your county office.
All right, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Carla,
You owe me.
You cover
You owe
the
me.
Manchester Police fairly extensively. You have an interest in the Manchester Police's right to know and how they handle certain crimes. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I believe in government accountability, so I watch all levels of government quite closely.
Okay, great. My question has more to do with finance because, in Manchester we have the tax cap, and I hear a lot of phrases like taxation is theft, right? And my question has to do with any of you have any input on the recently passed city-side contracts for the Manchester city-side unions? Because I know Ross was on the Board of School Committee negotiating team, and they pretty much held fast. They wanted some, I think it's accurate to say, some significant concessions from the teachers. And I, for one, applaud Ross and really the whole Board of School Committee negotiating team. And then it was kind of strange because, I thought it was strange. Cityside got everything they want. I mean, they got Cadillac gold-plated deals pretty much just handed to them.
Yep.
And it just seems odd to me, but if you want to go ahead, any of you want to go ahead and weigh in on what I consider to be excessively generous city-side union contract, that'd be great. I'll hang up and listen to your answer.
Bye, Ed.
Bye, Ed.
Bye.
Thanks.
Ed, thanks for
Bye.
calling in. So that's the main reason why I'm running is I support the tax cap.
What did you think about the contract was the question, though. Are you avoiding another
Well,
question?
no, it all ties in together. So we have
He's
to support.
running for office.
We have to support city contracts that abide by the tax cap. If you don't, so I've been looking around at like states like Illinois, cities like Chicago, states like Connecticut. They have a spending problem where people are fleeing the state and the cities because they keep on raising. Their only solution is to raise taxes.
Like California and Detroit.
California. I'm not that as familiar. I know Detroit's kind of a hellhole, but I don't
They're
know.
bankrupt.
I'm not familiar with their government. I know California has the same problem. But if your only solution is just to raise taxes instead of making hard decisions and living within your means, you're going to drive out the middle class. So what I've seen in California is you have very poor people who get government subsidies, and you have wealthy people. But from what I've seen, the state of California has in Illinois had one of the highest immigration rates They look at the different states where people are leaving, and people in Connecticut, people are fleeing because they can't afford to live there anymore.
But let's, sometimes I just feel like, what do we care other states are doing? I mean, we should
Well, we
care
don't wanna
about
emulate them. We don't wanna
for
copy
sure.
them.
But I mean, the question,
from
and
there.
to Ed's point, was in some ways there was some emulation. Yes, it's great we have this tax cap, but actually our mayor and many of our aldermen have actually voted several times now to override the tax cap.
Yes.
We know that we have aldermen who have conflicts of interest, who actually vote on teachers and firemen and policemen's contracts where they have direct family who benefit from those contracts.
That's a shocker.
And and then they police themselves by going and saying, oh, this isn't actually a conflict of interest. I mean, all of us would probably agree if that was a private sort of situation, we'd all be like, that's a little shady, But the contracts, as far as I understand it as well, were just sort of handed to them. So would you say they were pretty generous packages?
Well, I'm mostly
Right?
familiar with
Wait.
I mean, it was 5% is what I understand, right? So there was
Which
3%.
is not affordable.
So it was 2% that was cost of living and then 3% on top
a
of that. So it was
step
a
or a
five,
COLA,
yeah,
yeah.
so it was a 5%.
What does a city side contract mean? What is that?
Well,
Who are those people?
So basically, you have the Board of School Committee, which would make the school contracts, and then you have the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, who are control of the city contract, public works, police, fire. So he's
So the whole-
differentiating between
the
the
whole
two.
group, other than teachers.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you have teachers on the school side, it's in ancillary staff. You have
Right.
principals, directors and coordinators, paraprofessionals. So
Yeah,
he's
yeah. talking
talking about the things that are under the school board are separate from what the city negotiates, and they have two different negotiating teams.
And
Okay.
so this was firemen and police, right? I think that Ed meant.
I think the police was the most recent, but although the firefighters contract was most recently settled too.
And then, of course, there's one of the ones that really shocked me was there's now danger pay,
I
like
know.
weekly danger pay on
Yeah.
top of your salary.
Yeah. That's a
And
crock.
I appreciate, these are tough jobs, but I'm like,
That's what
isn't the job description kind of, it's a tough job? Isn't that why you're getting this very nice, benefit package and pension
Yeah,
and all of
right,
these
right.
things, right? So it's like, wow, really now we're going to do danger pay too? And it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you take, $50 or $100 per week per officer or per teacher or whatever, and you start to multiply those things, you're like, whoa, that was like $4 million we just handed out.
Are you intentionally trying to confuse Gary Hopper, my friend Gary Hopper?
No.
No, my question is, if I flip Ross off when the camera's not on me,
Then how many fingers are you
and how
holding
many
up?
fingers am I holding?
This was a mistake coming on the show.
It was, yeah.
You know what it was, though? I haven't been on here for so long, and I forgot how bad it was.
Yeah. See, the thing is, he couldn't make it as a lawyer either, so we ended up.
Either.
Yeah.
I like how you threw
Carla,
that in
I'm
there.
a failure like you.
Oh yeah,
but
it's
that's-
harsh.
That's
It's
why he
harsh.
ended up being a drug
That's why
dealer.
we're politicians.
Yeah. No, but you got people like John Bird who are successful tree surgeons, right?
Yes.
Tree surgeon.
Wow.
Tree
You know,
surgeon, brain surgeon. I don't really see a rocket surgeon. I
No,
don't see
it's
the
all the
difference.
same, yeah.
It's the same thing.
I heard an ad on the radio where they're trying to hire tree people to, like, their radio ads. The unemployment rate is so low. There are radio ads for people. My neighbor's been trying to hire someone to cut his trees down.
There you go,
Yeah.
John
For like
Bird.
6
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
Are you looking for work? Because we're looking for tree cutters.
Yeah.
Are you?
No,
you're
a little
busy,
bit.
right?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
a
Do you have a
little
business card?
Yeah, I don't
I
do
know
it
where to
anymore.
find you.
I'm retired.
But you
now.
would
Oh,
cut
that's
her neighbor's
right.
tree, though, right? For
But-
money.
But yeah, I'll do friends' trees.
Now, question for you: would you employ Gary
That's
Hopper
a
as
very
a
dirty
assistant? What do you call like a helper that helps you, like a tree?
Yeah, tree helper.
A tree technician.
Yeah, a
tree
ground
hugger?
guy.
Okay.
Ground technician.
Pissant.
See, technician.
Technician, ground
All right,
technician.
all right.
Ground technician.
But would you
Yeah.
send him like high, like up dangerously high in the tree? Even
Well,
though
no,
you
I
can't
was the
see
tree
where-
climber
Oh yeah.
for 20
wow.
years.
All right.
Also with the ropes where you like pull it, because these.
The ground guys kept me alive.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you watch him? I wouldn't think you
Oh,
want me
Because
to.
it almost, I mean, there are still people out there that climb, but very few. Everybody has a crane now. And they bring in the buckets and the cranes. That's why it costs so much. When I did it, it's mainly the fire. When they called me when I first got into office, we're voting against their abuses in their retirement system, which we did fix some of it, not all of it. You don't know how dangerous it is. I said, don't give me that. You're not even in the top 20. I was number 5 most dangerous job in the country.
Wow.
So you kind of like, you kind of showing you had street cred.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dangerous job. True.
Gary, what did you do? What were you were a machinist?
Machinist,
That's
yeah.
not even probably in the top 100 for dangerous jobs, right?
Well, it's the way I did it, it was.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like we should once again ask how many fingers are involved here.
How many fingers?
Now
am I
the
holding
question
up?
is, how many fingers can I hold up?
How
Right.
many, Gary, how many fingers am I holding up?
I'm not talking to you anymore.
All right.
I don't like you.
Have you thought about getting a haircut? It's getting kind of
Who's he
long.
talking to?
Now I'm happy to say my wife cuts my hair now.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, because my old haircut lady Jackie got done, and
Uh-oh.
I said I will hire somebody that is not licensed through the state. I am not paying.
So you're breaking the law?
Yes.
Little
Well, I
civil,
wanted-
civil
I-
disobedience
I-
dome
what was
that
over
band
there.
breaking
I
the law?
wanted
That was,
to, but I didn't.
Judas Priest.
So
Because,
then-
is your wife allowed to do it if she's unlicensed?
Yes.
You're willing to assume that risk.
Yes. So
That
then all
God
of a sudden-
forbid we go to someone who happens to have a
cut my
faucet
son's
and
hair
a
once. You're
sink
saying
in
that
an
against
the law?
office space.
I begged and begged and begged my wife, and finally she says, "All right, I'll cut your."
Would she cut Gary's hair?
Yeah, would she?
Well, as long as it looks like my head, yes. Because that's what you're going to look like. She only knows one cup.
What's that?
And
It's a number 2, yeah.
It's a 5/8 trimmer thing, and she just buzzes me, and
So what do you?
It works.
What? No. Now, right now, you're running for what?
So city charter commission.
And
So
what does
this
that
is-
do?
Okay, so
I don't
this
even know
is
what
a-
it is.
It's like
right,
the
so
writers of the Constitution.
her answer
I
it.
can talk
So,
for
Carla,
myself, thank you.
you're from
You
South
said-
Africa. I'm American.
Ross, you said you were coming on here for a cameo.
I know. And now he's
Cameo
answering
is
my
like
questions
3
like
minutes.
a really annoying politician
I
type
can't
of
pick and
dude.
let you on, even though I don't like you.
She's a Bernie Sanders supporter.
Wow, Vern, would you like to go shooting with me, sir?
No, let
I'm
him
gonna
go
invite-
shooting with
Yeah,
me.
How many fingers am I holding?
Anyway, go ahead.
Sorry.
So basically, what happened was we think it's a runaround from the tax cap, right?
Yeah.
So because of the tax cap
What, I know,
in
but what is that
Manchester-
board
and
do?
how many members?
So it's going to be 9 members.
Yeah.
There are 36 people running. I think
Yeah.
there might only be 3 of us, like Republicans running, as
Yeah.
far as I know, right? So the idea is because we have the Manchester tax cap that, people worked really hard. They had to go get the signatures. Tammy Brink, I forget, someone was there last night.
Dan Garthwaite? Did he?
No, maybe Mike Biondo.
Yeah,
Like there were
Mike
people,
Biondo-
right? So they
Biondo,
collected
Jeff
all these
Castle.
signatures, and it was a big deal. We got the tax cap. So now, because we have to stick to that, and the schools are quite greedy, right? So
I
our
wouldn't say they're greedy.
well, our enrollment has gone down significantly.
Yes,
Our
everywhere.
our spending has gone up significantly, and our outcomes have gone down significantly. So we're paying more and we're getting less. So I would say that's a problem, right?
Well,
now
well,
they want
wait,
even more on top of the more.
Well, there is a ratio there. In other
Yeah.
words, if you go to a lot more charter schools, you're taking the cream of the crop and picking that off the vine, and the people that, and it's not really the kids' fault as much as there's not as much parental involvement with the kids that are left.
And I think that's
And the-
Lou
and
D'Alessandro's
and the
totally
thing-
against charter school.
Well, we need them. But the thing is, you also have situations where you still need the exact number of people,
Yeah.
teachers or whatever, for that position, regardless. So in other words, if you have a math teacher and they've got 30 students, you still need somebody, according to the federal government, that is highly qualified in math to teach, even if there's only 10 students now. So the cost doesn't really decrease.
There's a lot of stuff we need to
there's-
fix. But,
I mean-
but back to this charter thing just
Yeah,
for a
sorry,
second,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
so basically, it's a way to circumvent the tax cap. And so and it was passed. I was actually surprised that Governor Sununu signed it. I mean, it's just a 1-page law that basically just authorizes the charter commission to be started. So the members who actually get on the commission, I think we'll either have the ability to say, we think this is a terrible idea and we should nix this now, if you kind of like that idea, I'm a good person to vote for. If you also think, okay, wow, we don't know, but we know there are challenges and problems with the schools, and maybe there's a way to fix this, and
Yeah.
maybe this could be it, I'm also a good person in that scenario. Because I think really we have to start to look at our public schooling, our government-run schools, and we have to ask ourselves hard questions. And that is just the reality. What we currently have is not working. It's not working for the kids. It's not working for society. It's
Yeah,
not
but too
working.
many people want to put their head in the sand.
Yeah, and the problem is, I mean, it's not working from the contract start where it's like, we're promising these pensions. We know we don't have the money. Like, why are we still perpetuating the problems by just pretending they don't exist? I mean,
Right.
someone like me is going to have to come, and I feel like I'm like Maggie Thatcher at this stage. You know, no, genuinely, like when she took over in England in the 70s, the UK was 90% nationalized. And she was hated, but it's like they were 10% away from full communism. And it was like, okay, sometimes you just have to do hard things, but in the long term, we're all going to benefit. And we can't just pretend like these things aren't an issue. And we have to have people who have an appetite, who are like moral and ethical, and genuinely are like, I will work with anyone, but we can't just keep doing the same 6 things.
Well,
It doesn't work.
well, the thing I would be really interested in when you get into it is to calculate how much money we're getting from the federal government, how much those regulations that come with it, because it's a carrot and stick.
Yep.
You know, in other words,
I've
if we're
always
getting
said this.
$1,000 from the federal government, but it costs us $10,000 to abide by it, you know, maybe it's time to just tell the federal government to go pound sand and just start going back to teaching kids.
And I think really genuinely, something like that would be really interesting to see. We know from a states' rights constitutional perspective, right, that we can
You can do
nullify
whatever
things.
you
I
want.
mean, that, you know, that's basically what the 10th Amendment says, right?
Right.
It's like states' rights are our rights.
Well, the thing-
and the federal government is just taking and taking and taking. And I think it's time for us to say, you know what, enough. We can run our own business. We believe in 50 states that are a laboratory of ideas, that we can compete from state to state. And the socialists are coming from everywhere. And there are a handful of states, and I measure them by which states don't have personal income tax.
Right.
And there are a handful of us left, and they want to change that because you can't, in a socialist system, have outliers where it is more prosperous, like it is in New Hampshire,
Right.
because we believe in liberty and we're willing to enhance and defend it.
Right. Well, the thing is the what the federal government. This has bothered me since my first year as a state legislator in 2001, is because at the time I was working full time as a machinist. I'm making pretty decent money, and they're taking a whole chunk of it, and it's going to the federal government. Then the federal government is taking that money to blackmail us.
Yeah.
Right.
Somebody's
But
calling you, Gary.
go ahead. Welcome to Rock Paper Hand Grenades. What's up?
Hey, it's former Representative Barbara Hagan.
Barb!
Thank you so much for your forum and your show. And I have a kind of off-the-path question, but it's been kind of driving me crazy since yesterday. There was something in the news about 2 new grants to New Hampshire in the millions of dollars. One was $4 million grant goes to the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, and the second is $150,000 to 7 individual houses of worship, constituting the first time New Hampshire faith groups have received dollars directly.
For
We've
security.
been going through incredible rebuff with respect to having, trying to get some money into the state to help the schools that are actually teaching students. And I'm just wondering how, to me, these grants are like, okay, if there's a separation of church and state, Maggie Hassan, how is this money coming in? And we have a school system here that is failing, and we just keep throwing money after it again and again and again. And I really appreciate that your guest is running for Charter Commission. I think it's a really important job, but the problem is we keep buying into and agreeing to these ongoing contracts that are 2 and 3 years ahead of time that make promises. And I know I'm on two different parallels here, but I think something needs to rein all this in locally. It's gone way too out into federal money coming in with all of these caveats attached that don't allow us to do what we need to do for Manchester. I'm going to hang up and thank you for listening and appreciate so much what you're doing, Gary, and thank you, Carla, for running.
Sure, thanks, Barbara.
Thanks, Barbara. Carla, you go for it. I'm not quite sure.
Well, I think it was more a statement sort of saying the same thing you were saying, is that sense of blackmail that we have, right? Where you know, I certainly saw it, right? I'm very against police militarization, right? Like, I worry about this sort of balance between safety versus liberty, right?
Bearcats, why do they
Yeah,
need
the Bearcats and all of that, right? So way back when Concord got their Bearcat, you know, we went and did rallies and said we don't think this is a great idea. And the city's response was pretty much like, it's free money. We're getting like $280,000 from the feds, you know? And I was like, but it's not really free money. I pay federal income tax, so
Right,
it is
right.
like, it's my money. And at the time, Chief Duvall, who, you know, in that whole scenario, I genuinely feel sorry for, because he was like the only decent police chief who answered the original 91A request, gave the forms that then sort of, you know, called free staters and sovereign citizens and Occupy people domestic terrorists. That's why they said they needed that tank, right?
Right,
For,
right.
you know, these domestic terrorists. That was me.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I'm so scary.
I know
And-
you are very scary.
You are.
I always feel, remember I always wear my flak jacket.
Yes, yes.
But yeah,
I left my gun at home
you want to borrow one?
tonight.
Let's see it, Gary.
No.
But so where were we? You know, so they, you know, so they tempt us with this money, and then we create this culture in the state where we kind of pretend like it's free money, but one, it is actually our own money, or it's indebted money that we're kind of stealing from our grandchildren,
well,
right?
if you
And it's money that they're going to take and use to enslave us. I mean, Concord now has drones, unmarked drones that like fly around and take pictures if you're at the wrong kind of rally at the State House. They just got, what are those triangulation things? That I forget what it's called now, but it's something pretty like creepy spy, like a whole nother level of spying stuff. So departments are now routinely kind of getting that stuff. And I think a lot of people within the state are like, well, maybe we'd be a little more annoyed if like it was our money, right? You know,
Well, yeah.
but because we feel like it's not our money, we're like, it's free
well,
stuff.
see what happens is the federal government, the bureaucrats in Washington D.C., and I don't even think you can even pick on a particular party because I think they're all in bed with each other.
Satin sheets.
Satin
Rolling
sheets.
around on it.
They want to have more and more control. Under the federal constitution, they can't have more and more control, but what they can do is say, I know you don't want to do this, Carla, so I'll pay for it, and is that okay? And then the town or the city says, oh, look at all this money we get. It's the same thing with so many immigrants coming to Manchester. That was a deal they made with the federal government, and the next thing you know, there's all these people coming in, and the school system in Manchester is saddled with trying to hire all these people that can speak all these different languages,
Right.
because these kids have to be able to have a translator all the way for the 18 years they're in school, or in my
Well,
case,
I kind
30.
of feel like you should be able to learn a language, like everyone. I mean, when I
I'm saying
originally came to this,
yeah, but see, it comes to here, but it's a federal mandate that they have to
to,
have all
right.
this stuff.
Yep.
So you have the federal government basically entrapping people into. So my suggestion, if you're really going to fix the school system, is maybe the best thing, and I don't know, you'd have to study it. the best thing to do is completely break free of the federal government.
Nullify. Yeah, I think you're not wrong. I also think another way to help with that process is to encourage more competition. We know competition
Right.
generally makes things better and drives down the cost. So let's allow some charter schools, let's allow a little more school choice. And actually, you know, like teachers, I think, have such an important job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like, and kids being able to read and write seems like a important thing for a functioning society, right? So I genuinely cherish education. I just think like once we get into systems where we say there's one way to do something and we're going to make like 100 million people do it, clearly that's a crappy way to do things.
Yeah.
People learn differently, people think differently, and all of that stuff. And I think in America's exuberance to be super successful at stuff, we ended up like taking that crazy Prussian system and like drilling it down to where, in my opinion, there's very little difference now between schools and prisons.
Yes.
There are police in both. They get locked down. These kids get like, terrified. Every kid I've met is like thinks they're gonna get shot and killed going to school. This is not normal.
Right.
So if these are the challenges, like making New Hampshire like schools gun-free zones, that's literally the dumbest thing we could be doing.
Well, it's
Right.
propaganda. It's the
Yeah.
anti-gun. Sadly, there are a few numbers. I won't say a lot of them, but there's some out there that know dead children are a price of paying, is a cost of doing business to take guns.
Well, we know that in
and that's
general.
why they beg to keep these gun-free zones, which luckily our schools are not gun-free.
Right, and you were saying earlier, Russ was saying about it's for the children kind of thing, right? Well, you weren't, but I'm going to take it.
I thought
there.
I was ranking on Gary a lot. I don't remember anything about saying about children.
But we know that there's this messaging that makes everything, if you can reduce it to the most emotional response that you can elicit from
That was
someone.
John. That was John said that. He said blood on your hands.
Yeah, right. Then that generally works, and then probably in that scenario, that had almost the opposite effect because it was just too shocking for them to contemplate, right?
Right.
But we know
Yes.
from like a messaging, narrative, possibly / propaganda standpoint, right, that if you say it's about the children, then everyone's brains just flies out the window and we come up with like these crazy nonsense solutions. So my question would be to people also is, if we believe in American values and what the Constitution says, and we have these public schools that the government has 100% control of, and we treat them like Constitution-free zones. We tell the children they can't really say what they want. We tell the children they can be searched at any time. We tell the children, well, you have to have a cop looking over your shoulder. You have to ask permission to go pee. So you've taken this one thing that is
Brainwashing
supposed to represent a country that believes in freedom and liberty, and you've turned it into like a mini little camp. And then we're all like, why are people addicted to drugs and why is everyone miserable and why are people shooting each other in schools?
Yeah.
Because we're creating an unhealthy, sick society and we're pretending like this isn't happening.
Right.
But if we pass more gun laws, that will fix it.
Which it won't, as you
That's
very
right.
well know.
But that's
that
what
was
they
a
think.
rhetorical question.
Yes, that's what they think.
understand. And I'm sorry, I'm so impassioned about it, but I'm just like, we can't, and people generally, sometimes people are like, you shouldn't be saying these things, but I'm like, if we don't speak the truth, and people don't have to agree with me, but I can back up my statements. I mean, it is clear now. I've talked to kids who've gone through school who've actually said to me, I had such cognitive dissonance because I was, on the one hand, getting this message of liberty and this is what our country's about, but then I'm in this environment where none of those things are true. And these are smart kids who are just like, what is happening? And then they generally either drop out or they really need to go to a different school or they learn in a different way. But then they're just trapped in the system, and trapped in the system that's tied to someone's zip code. That's crazy too.
They're also in the school system today. And it's not as much, I don't think, in Manchester as other schools, but there is a lot of it as being forced into accepting political correctness, and to being forced to not express yourself because you might offend somebody, because sometimes the truth is offensive.
And you know what? And sometimes the truth is funny. And here's my rule, right? I'm like, I'm a humorous person. I like to make jokes, right? And I'm not very PC because I didn't really grow up here. So, you know, I'm like, I'll just pretend like I didn't know I couldn't say that, right? But if you create an environment and a society where it's like you're not allowed to joke about stuff. I mean, most of the jokes, honestly, no one wants to hear this, but certainly, I mean, I'm from South Africa, so maybe that's an extension of something, but I can assure you, everyone in this room, some of the first jokes you ever heard were either dirty or racist.
Yeah.
Because why? Those two things are actually funny, right?
Yeah.
What is, you know, when someone makes a racist joke, I believe if it makes you laugh, like, if it doesn't make you laugh, it wasn't a joke, then it's just racist.
Right.
But if it's racist and it made you laugh, it served its purpose, right?
Well,
so if we can't joke about stuff, so now you have an entire population who are just all miserable.
Well,
like, we're taking laughter away with all this crap.
Yeah, there was what was the guy, Seinfeld said that, I don't know how many years ago, that basically you're destroying comedy because you can't laugh at anything because, you know, he doesn't even do colleges anymore, he said.
No.
Because everybody's going to get offended.
Well, could you imagine Archie Bunker on TV today?
Oh, no, I mean, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
I actually went to
Reruns.
see Jerry Seinfeld, and
But
I
it
also
wouldn't
went
last.
to
I mean,
see
you know, but you prime time and
Dave Chappelle and Jon Stewart. And for all of those shows now, I went down in Boston, they put your cell phone in a Faraday cage so that you can't film the performance so that they can hone stuff and tell jokes. And then you're telling the joke over is not as bad as like something that was off color or un-PC or that was going to unleash the holy hell of
or
being
they edit part of it to
shadow
make them
banned
look
and- Yeah,
bad.
right?
Well, Carla, I have a complaint. The comedian from South Africa, Noah, he's not even funny. What's up with him? Noah?
I think he's funny.
not. He's not even amusing. He's
I've
just
seen his stand-up. I read his book. I find him pretty...
but
Okay,
that's
I'll-
biased because you're from
I'll
South
give you-
Africa.
I'll give you an example.
and it could be. I mean,
Right,
there's certain
he's-
American humor that I don't get. Like,
Yeah.
you know, some of the Archie Bunker, that's just like a little...
Oh,
Could
I
be
thought
the
it was-
misogyny that doesn't just ring well with me.
But it's funny because I do some public speaking.
Yeah.
I say this one joke I said it in Peterborough, and I said that I married a Polish girl and I'm Irish, which was good because we didn't have to save up for our kids' college, right? And that's funny. I said it in Andover, Massachusetts, and it was dead silence. Oh, they were pissed. They were wicked pissed, which to me was funnier than the joke.
Now, you had another joke, too, that people really hate. You say something, I forget what it is. but
No, all
it
my
was-
jokes people love.
No, people get upset.
No.
I just wish I could remember. You do it to offend people.
I never do anything to offend. I just get lucky sometimes. So yeah, you're wrong.
But you know, I think what's going to happen is we're just, and we're at that tipping point, I think, where we're just, there's this overcorrection happening where I think people are also just saying like the most loathsome things because it's a reaction to political correctness.
Yeah.
And so people are just, and I think that's what's creating this sort of frothy, you know, alt-right, everyone's a
actually,
racist
what was that party?
and stuff, and then it's going to blow over.
What's that video that they had? It's not the Democrat Party, but it's the next worst thing, if you can say that.
Socialist?
The Democratic Socialist Convention.
Convention.
Have you seen that? Brock, have you seen that?
You gotta Google it.
Google Democratic Socialist Convention.
Oh, is that the one where they're like, no?
Yes, don't yell.
There's a lot of
do this.
Yeah, they're
finger
waving
hands
hands instead
and
of
the-
clapping
yeah.
because a loud
and then
noise offended
one
people.
white guy gets up and he goes, the last three speakers and now me, we've all been white and we really need to correct that to make it more fair for everybody. Can we get somebody else other than people look like
Oh,
me?
I did see that.
And I mean,
yeah.
he was going on and I'm like,
Oh,
my
wow.
God, is this real? And when I looked into it, it really was real.
I mean, I saw an interesting clip. I think it was Dinesh D'Souza, right?
Oh, yeah,
he
he's
made
good.
like a bunch of, I guess he ended up going to jail for like a couple of years for some kind of campaign finance, which is like how really corrupt regimes actually start to take out their enemies, right? I mean, that is what happens in other countries.
The thing we have to be careful of, because I'd like to get your opinion on this, is, as you know, Google and other high-tech companies have helped China create their social
Yeah.
social credit score. So that basically, if you do X, all of a sudden your score goes down. And if your score goes down too far, then you can't like go to the restaurant. You can't do this.
Yeah,
You
you
can't
can't
get
get a
on the
credit card. You
subway.
can't get a bank account.
Yeah,
you
you
can't
can't.
finance a loan.
And I said this a while ago.
Yeah.
That to me, what's going on in China is a prototype
Test run, yeah, for
for
sure.
what they want to do worldwide. And it turns out that that's actually becoming more and more the case.
Yeah.
Because
So I'm going to be blackballed
There's
from
nothing
everything.
more fun than getting gray and old enough where
Gary-
you're like, my conspiracy theories were all right.
Gary, you sound kind of paranoid.
Huh?
You sound paranoid.
Just because you're paranoid does
Doesn't
not mean
mean
everybody
it's
isn't
not.
out to get you.
Exactly.
So what do you have
I
that
think
same?
I think that's right. I mean, I came from a sort of a big tech background. I worked as a lawyer for Apple Computer, for Logitech. I mean, I spent time in Silicon Valley, and I really used to think it was a force for good. I think where the turning point was, I mean, we have a lot of cronyism now, right? So these companies and government and the whole switch to this sort of surveillance mentality, they're colluding. I mean, ask the question, right? Facebook just paid a $5 billion with a B fine, right, for the invasion of our privacy to the government. So Facebook invades our privacy. We don't get any of that. That money goes to the government, and they waste it on, I don't know, buying more stuff to spy on us.
Right.
And it's just like, well, what in this model looks like we, the people, are at all in charge of
Or have any
anything.
say in it.
Yeah.
Now, what year were you out there?
From 95 to 2001.
How much was your house then?
I rented. I couldn't afford to buy.
Oh,
it.
somebody's coming.
Oh wow!
Is this your most popular calling show
Yes,
ever?
yes, it is.
Yay!
Welcome to Rock Paper Hand Grenades. What's up?
Hey, how you doing tonight?
Good.
Yeah, I just wanted to know from John Burt and the rest of the group what they're going to do when the Democrats try to override Governor Sununu's veto of the gun bills.
Kick their butt.
Yes, I've been.
Well, I hope so.
I'm calling the representatives. I'm going to call every Republican to make sure they're there, because sometimes we only lose by a couple votes. But from what I'm seeing with the numbers, all vetoes on the gun bills will stay vetoed.
That's what I heard. Too.
When-
Not that I know anything, but
Yeah,
that's
well,
what
the
When will
thing-
that vote take place?
The 18th or the 19th
Of September?
of
Yeah.
And
September.
will that also be the budget with the tax increases?
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
Everything is going to be on the 18th or the 19th.
Yes.
So,
So-
call your representative, regardless if they're a Democrat or not, Republican, and you pound on them and say, not literally, but you be very strong and say you want those 4 bills to stay dead.
What you do is you call your state legislator and say if they don't vote to sustain the governor's veto, they have to go shooting with me.
Yes.
Yeah.
we had a Japanese film crew out this
Hey, thanks for the
weekend.
question.
Oh, wait, and I got a question for you guys to tie into city politics. Excuse me, Carla. So one of the reasons why we're having a problem settling the teachers' contract is because in the budget that Governor Sununu vetoed, there was supposed to be a lot of education dollars, and they're thinking that if that passes, there's going to be a big windfall for Manchester and that we had more money to negotiate the contract. I don't think that's going to happen. But just to make sure, so that, the budget, with all those tax increases, with the education dollars, that's happening on the 18th or the 19th?
Yes.
So we'll have settled, so then we'll have a closure, and we'll be able to move on from within our contracts.
Yes.
Excellent.
Well,
You may have
Well,
closure.
no,
Depends
yeah,
on how
no,
the
Not,
vote
not
chances are
necessarily
the
on
budget
the
ain't gonna
budget.
pass,
It's
from
not
what I'm
gonna
hearing.
pass.
Yeah, but so that's done for this year. and
no,
then,
they'll go for
No,
another
it's
3
gonna
months.
do like, yeah,
Oh,
another
so then
CR
October,
and,
November. So in December they could
Yes.
have another bite at the
They
apple.
have to bring us back.
Oh, so it's
Because
not gonna-
originally that's what they wanted was a 6-month continuing
But also, your
on the
position
budget.
should be: we're not going to wait for some kind of windfall to give
yes,
you everything you want.
That's our
right?
position, but you have two sides to every
Right.
story, and so if the other side believes that there's more money coming in, they're not apt to settle a contract.
Haven't
that's
they
a-
dragged this out for like 18 months already? It's been a
It's
while.
been,
it's been like more than a
so
hot
last
second.
spring it was like February, March was about a year. So yeah, it's been about a year and a half
Mm-hmm.
that we've been trying to get a contract.
So
And yet everything goes on. Maybe
So,
we don't need one.
because of your inside information as to
Gary,
I
I'm
know
sorry.
nothing.
I've got to, thank you for having me do the cameo. I've got to go, my meter's running out, but Carla, as usual, it was nice meeting you and talking to you. Thank you,
Yes.
John Burt.
Yes.
And Gary.
Ross, I've never liked you.
Well, the feeling's mutual.
All right, brother.
Hey,
Yeah. I like you, Ross.
Bye, bud. So anyway, with your inside information on if Google and Facebook and those tech giants are not diced up, is it a very real possibility that they could actually create almost a global? Wait, let me finish. A global tech government.
Interesting choice of words because, I mean, currently, although we all use Facebook and Google, we do have the choice to use other platforms,
we do.
right?
Yeah.
And I would love to see us move off Facebook. I mean, I think Facebook is going to turn out to be like the biggest, vastest violation of our privacy. It's addictive from an actual physiological
Yeah.
perspective, right? It triggers dopamine. Like the whole thing is, like it's pretty bad once you really look at the model and what's going on there. But we can't walk away. None of us are, because we're currently addicted to it, and we need to find enough adopters that go to a different thing. Could they create some kind of tech government? Government, there's the interesting choice of words because, you know, I'm a free marketeer, so I would actually like to see us move towards a more of a model where we do vote with our dollars, meaning that wherever we spend our money, like I'm anti-war, so I don't really want to pay taxes that are spent on, you know, putting people in harm's way. Like that,
Right,
none
right.
of that makes sense to me, right? So like I would withdraw my money from that. I can't currently, but I would, right? So if we had a free market, then we could spend our money. So if something like Facebook and Google were like uber evil, which I think they are, but currently they're being protected by the government, then right now we have that cronyism. If we take the government out of the mix, that's like too much head explosion for everyone, so let's not do that. So then the question is, well, can the tech companies, are we envisioning that they're taking out, like circumventing government?
Okay, no. In other words, let's say Google buys up any competition, which is what they do.
Right.
Facebook does the same thing. Some of the big retailers like Amazon, they all get together in a smoke-filled room. But there wouldn't be smoke. It'd probably be marijuana smoke nowadays.
It'll be vaping, honey.
A vaping, a big vaping room. They get together in a big vaping room and they said, look, I think we've got this. All we have to do is create a world social credit score. Okay, so they can't really control everything, right? But they can control how much money Carla has to pay for her next cell phone, because instead of paying $100, you're gonna have to pay $200 because your social credit score is X.
Right.
Right, and over time, it's like, you know, a kind of, there'd be a Pavlovian response, and people would start altering their behavior to accommodate Google and Facebook, so that you can get this at a decent deal.
Arguably, you know, because I do believe in incentives, right? So, and if you have the right incentives, you actually get better outcomes, which is why market competition is important. But in that scenario, it's sort of interesting because it's like, if they had the right incentives so that we're trying to make people, this is awful, I don't believe in social engineering, but like, so that, oh, you behave this way. But the problem is, whoever's in charge, once you have someone who has that human instinct to control or have power or to like, top down, I'm gonna make you do what I want.
a
Dance,
puppeteer,
you know, dance, monkeys dance, you know. Once they have that instinct, you know, I'm gonna assume that their incentives aren't gonna be right? So it's probably gonna be for big banking and big pharma and whatever, and it's
Socialism,
gonna push
communism.
and it'll push out moms and pops and small business.
Not buying guns. All of a sudden, anybody who owns a gun or has guns or looks at gun videos,
Right. will be tracked and your reputation would go down. And yeah,
Boy,
I mean, I
Gary,
do
you'd
think
be
that.
at the bottom of the heap.
I mean, we know that's happening on Facebook. I mean,
yeah.
I can clearly see for a very long time, Facebook thought I was a moderate. It was perfect. I could advertise and do whatever I wanted. And then I started to do more things publicly as I took on more of a public role. And then Facebook apparently figured out I am not. I mean, I kind of am a moderate because I think, in my opinion, libertarianism makes perfect sense. It's live and let live.
Right.
It's the best of left and right. You know, it's like, hey, we should do good, but we should do it good because we're good people, not because the government told us to or that they're going to take my money and give it to someone else, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and now I mean, it's already happening. Like these things that you're worried about are, you know, shadow banning is happening. You know,
Now, what happened to your account as a result of them figuring out that you're not as?
Well, like there was a weird. This was I mean, this is more a soft example, but I do a lot of work with Right to Know New Hampshire, right, which is a nonpartisan coalition of privacy advocates, right, and people who believe that government should be open, transparent, and accountable to the people.
Yeah, in other words, the cameras on Main Street should be pointing inside, not outside.
Yeah, you know, I'm not a big fan of those, and I'll come on another time and tell you we're going to do more shenanigans on that. But are we running out of time?
No.
No. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just. I didn't have to do stuff.
Where was I?
You come and talk. Yeah.
Cameras on Elm Street, privacy. Oh, so I had I wanted to push
Right to know.
Right to Know. So there's the whole issue with the Lori's list, right? So
Yeah.
there's a secret list of bad cops, right? And a judge in April said, we're in New Hampshire, we shouldn't have a secret list of bad cops. If these cops are really bad, we should know who they are. And then I researched it and I'm like, well, you know, there's a 20-page procedure to get on that list. You're probably actually really a bad cop once you get on it. All of that, right? So there's no excuse. This should not be hidden from Granite Staters. Like, we should know who it is. All the newspapers agree. The judge agreed. And then the AG was like, we're going to appeal, right? So we are paying the AG to take a lawsuit to the Supreme Court of New Hampshire to keep a secret list of bad cops secret from taxpayers.
Yep.
And I was like, that is nonsense. So there was a video of me going, that is nonsense, at the taxpayers' picnic. And so I wanted to share that with the petition that we started. And Facebook, first, it wouldn't let me share it at all from Right to Know. Then they were like, oh, if you want to share this, you have to register Right to Know New Hampshire, which is not it's not a 501c3. It's not an organization. I don't even think, we might have a bank account now. But we're literally a bunch of people who get together once a month in Concord at the taxpayer's office. And we talk about open, transparent, what laws we could help push through, how can we, you know, make people care about this. Because if your government is transparent and open, you have a better chance of holding them accountable.
Right.
We're in the scenario now where, like, we are not allowed to have any secrets from the government, and they are keeping secrets of bad cops who should be fired secret from us.
Right.
It's like topsy-turvy. It's entirely the wrong way around.
Right.
So in that case, Facebook was like, no, unless you have like a tax number, you can't share this. And then I was like, oh, maybe I can share it from like my Senate page. But then it got complicated because I had donors who had given it to promote Right to Know. And they were like, well, I'm not, you know, I didn't donate to your Senate page, you know, so it got all kinds of murky. And so, you know, I ended up just being like, I'm not sure what to do. But that's a soft example. But I mean, I know a lot of, you know, I don't post that much gun stuff, but I do once in a while. And I can tell, depending on what it is, you know, if I post something, I'm used to getting, say, 50 likes, and then it's like, this got 1 like? I'm like, that means no one saw it. If every single other thing I do gets X amount, and these particular things get, like significantly less, I'm like, that's fishy.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, some of it's fishy. I think a lot of people are zoning out on politics. So if I post something non-political, like I posted something about... I got like a threatening email.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was a threatening email saying that they were going to, we know where you live. We've videotaped you in your bedroom doing nasty things.
Like blackmail. Right?
Blackmail email. And then it was, we know you, we've seen your nice car. I bet you don't want something bad happening to that. which I know it's all BS because my car is a 2002, my truck, okay? So they're obviously full of what makes the grass green. So I was making fun of them on Facebook, and that got a whole bunch of likes. But then I post political stuff, but the thing is, I've gone to some of my liberal friends who post really horribly liberal stuff, and they're getting like 2 likes, as opposed to say 20 or 30 that I can get.
So you're saying you think it's happening?
I think it might be across the board because people just.
I mean, I think that would be great, actually.
People are sick of politics.
Yeah, and I think we should be. You know, we government's too big, so we have to pay way too much attention to stuff that really does not improve our lives.
That we have to wrap it up. Carla, thank you very much, but you're absolutely right. If government was right size, we wouldn't have to have this show.
Yes.
That's right.
Thanks for having me.
John, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Carla.
Thanks.
You're lovely. We'll see you guys next week.